Welcome back. I'm Benjamin Ryder with Cooperative Communications, and I'm speaking with Tom Keenan, Professor Dr. Tom Keenan, with the University of Calgary, correct?
Hi, Benjamin.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So you're with the Faculty of Environmental Design.
That's right.
And you're speaking on intelligent communities?
Smart homes, intelligent communities, smart cities, they all kind of converge, and what they all have in common is the fact that we're going to use data to make our lives a lot better.
So we once had phones, and now we have smartphones.
Yes, we
okay,
do.
and that's a big leap from the little rotary dial pad to these, which can, connect with anyone on the world like that.
Yep.
So what is the jump up from the home to the intelligent home?
Well, the next step is probably sensors, actually, when you think about it, because I already know there's an application that you can run to look at a bar, and you can find out how many people are in that bar, like how full it is it buzzing, is it chilling or whatever, and you can also get the ratio of male to female. It's a pretty amazing application. I had to figure out how they did it, so I checked. They have cameras mounted all over the bar with the permission of the bar owner, and it figures out, are you a guy or a girl? It even does the approximate age. So this is running on a lot of U.S. properties now, like ones in Boston and New York. The point is that those sensors allow you to figure out things. Equally well, if somebody was disabled and they fell down, a sensor could be used to determine if they've fallen over. So when you take those sensors and you take them up to a higher level and link them all together, then everybody's sensors can be connected. You can have a whole community-wide approach, so you can find out if anybody fell down in the city and things like that.
So now, to me, that sounds like it could really change our concept of communities and communal living.
Absolutely.
What are some of the concerns with that?
Well, there are privacy concerns. I mean, we do some work with senior citizens' homes in Europe, and they have very strict privacy laws. And so anything that, for example, kept track of how long somebody spent on the toilet, you might think that that's pretty innocuous information, but some people might consider that to be private information. They don't want people to know how long they take on the toilet. So you always have to kind of take that information, first of all, and make sure that you have the consent to collect it. And then if you put it all together, if you aggregate it, you have to figure out ways to de-anonymize it. So if you're going to make kind of predictions and statistical stuff about a whole city, you don't want it ever to be tagged back to, this is information about Fred Smith, this one particular person.
So, I definitely appreciate the concern for privacy, but I think there needs to be a recognition that the younger generations, their viewpoint of privacy is much different.
That's a very interesting and controversial question, because almost everybody has secrets, so I won't probe what yours are, but there's probably something, and if you lost your cell phone and your computer and so on, you might be a little bit worried that they would find out what you buy online, for example. People are talking about Amazon. If you go out and buy certain books on Amazon, it starts to suggest other books. So somewhere there's a creepy database being built of what you like, and if you link all those databases together, that could become very creepy.
So we have these concerns of privacy, and we have these concerns of our information being stored. Is there any group or conversation or anything happening to address this, or is this just kind of like, well, we have this concern?
Well, it's the job of the privacy commissioners, and we have really great privacy commissioners in Canada. That's an advantage we have over the U.S., where it's kind of fragmented, and you have the American Civil Liberties Union and people like that. So when something sketchy happens, when, for example, public information like open government, if governments give out information and it's not quite right, the privacy commissioner jumps on them. So that's one of the great things that we have in Canada. We do have watchdogs there. Problem is the privacy commissioners are getting very busy. There are so many things happening. And just this example I gave you of the bar that figures out how full it is, somebody might object to that. They might say, I don't want cameras pointing at me when I go into a bar. And then the privacy commissioner would have to decide, if the warning signs were good enough and things like that.
Yeah, well, because I can definitely understand, for events that we are involved with, we have to put up signs.
Absolutely.
And if people don't agree with the signs, they just don't come in, right? But, the concern, I guess, would be on the long term is now these are installed everywhere.
That's right.
And the only place you don't have cameras is in your home.
And there is suggestion that maybe some homes should have cameras. I mean, you could optimize the energy. There's a great project where a guy is flying over Calgary and he's keeping track of, with thermal imaging cameras, how much heat you're radiating. So it's obviously good to know, is my house really leaking and giving off a lot of heat? But the next step might be, you might get a knock on the door from the environment police saying, you got to insulate your house better because you're wasting energy. Now, that's where we have a social question. Do we actually, we want to save energy, but do we want to do it so badly that we use a thermal imaging camera, find out what's going on in a particular person's house, and then give them grief over it?
Well, I mean, I think we do the same thing. I mean, I've definitely received letters for not mowing my lawn, you know, and no matter how much I don't mow my lawn, the letters still come, and eventually so do the knocks. So, I mean, I can see how technology can really help with that. What are some of the other cool projects that you're working on, and what else are you here to
Well,
to chat
there's
about?
something called the Intelligent Community Foundation. It's based in New York City, and it's sort of the home of all the smart community movements. And to crystallize that, and they run a lot of seminars and stuff, they picked the Intelligent Community of the Year. And I got involved with them in 2002 because Calgary made a bid to get that, and actually was the co-winner with Seoul, Korea. So every year they pick one of these. Edmonton hasn't won it yet, but they'll certainly get to it one of these years. And they narrow it down. They get like 300 applications. Then they go to 21, then they go to 7. And currently, of the 7, there are 2 Canadian finalists, Stratford, Ontario, and Toronto, Ontario. Now, we can all kind of understand Toronto, lots of high tech, but why Stratford? And the answer is Stratford became a smart community because they had to. A lot of bad things happened. It used to be a railway repair yard. It closed down. The economy was really in the toilet. And then they started the Stratford Festival, Shakespeare Festival. They got the University of Waterloo to build a campus there. So they actually turned themselves around. And a lot of the smart communities are ones that have overcome some adversity, like a shipyard closing or something. The winner last year was Riverside, California, which is this absolutely horrible-looking suburb of Los Angeles. Lots of, warehouses and big box store malls and stuff like that. But they came up with things like they had gang members, and they got them in off the street, and they said, hey, we'll pay you $10 an hour if you fix computers. And they trained these kids to fix computers. So now you've got 2 things happening. The gang members are off the street for a while anyway, and you're getting computers that are refurbished that they can give to poor people. So by doing all those programs, Riverside actually was the Smart Community of the Year for last year, and in a few weeks in New York, we'll be announcing who the winner is for this year.
Cool. So you guys announce a winner every year?
Yeah, every year they pick one. The one before Riverside was Eindhoven, which is in the Netherlands, and that's the home of Siemens, big light, electronics manufacturer. And they won because they're so closely integrated. They have a great university there, and the university and the industry and the government are all kind of working together. So we decided that they would probably be a really good example of a smart community.
So I want to talk a little bit about your background as an academic and kind of what's coming out of academia. We have really good conversations going on where the future needs to go, but when students come into the workforce, is the workforce a little behind?
Yeah, there certainly are. There's at this analytics conference, there's evidence that we're short 100, maybe 150,000 people in North America who had analytics skills, which is pretty disturbing because there's a lot of people, as you said, coming out of college with no job. That's because they didn't have the right training. The good news is that they're also talking about very intensive training programs so you could take your skills. Let's say you graduate in anthropology. Anthropology turns out to be a really useful skill. Google has a bunch of anthropologists working for them. But what you have to be able to do is combine that maybe with an understanding of these new data sciences. So I think we're going to see sooner certificate programs that build on whatever you know now and give you the statistics and the data analytics skills so that you can put those 2 together, and then come out making a couple $100,000 a year, which is not a bad outcome.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right, so we're going to go to break here in a bit. Is there anything else that you'd like to chat about?
I think everybody can participate in the smart community movement. So it's not just something for cities. Like on the panel here, we have the deputy fire chief. Now, he's obviously got a lot of interest in tracking patterns of fires. But you can do something as simple as putting a Nest thermostat in your house. That's a smart thermostat that will learn your patterns and learn your life. And so by adding things like that, maybe controlling it from your iPad or something like that, you can build your own little smart home. And it's a lot of fun. I know people who do this, and they have a really good time.
We were talking about security features, and you had a really interesting, non-threatening security feature. Do you want to talk about that?
I know a guy who built sensors. He made his alarm system sense his yard and all the different zones. He said, but so what? What am I going to do? I'm not going to call the police if somebody walks on my lawn. He said, well, I could target them with laser beams. No, that's not a good idea. So then he set up his sprinkler system. So if you walk on zone 5 of his lawn, The sprinkler goes off in zone 5, just enough to let you know that he knows that you're there. And that's something I think we want to keep with all this. We want to keep a bit of a tongue-in-cheek approach so we don't get too darn serious about this.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming and chatting with me.
Thanks, Benjamin.
It was amazing to know some of the things that you're up to. It definitely gives us some hope for, where we're moving as a community, as a smart community and as an intelligent community. And definitely for myself makes me really excited.
And the website for the Intelligent Community Foundation is intelligentcommunityfoundation.org.
And before we go, do you have events? Do they put on events?
Oh, well, they have this big summit in New York City every May, and lots of Canadians go to that. In fact, the mayor of Waterloo, Ontario, they won a few years ago. She's the chair of the alumni group. So an awful lot of Canadians go to that. And if you just go to intelligentcommunityfoundation.org, all the details are there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Join the conversation next year as more cities become data-driven. Become a community partner. Contact us at info@abctech.ca.